social media icon. And I think what really touches our hearts about Anand is he's been able to successfully democratize investing and investment, and has played a huge role in widening access to be able to make markets accessible to people who sort of are not as privileged or well off as many people are. So I think that's an amazing thing that you've done. And he's also got a very sort of unique way of offering insightful perspective, and we'll hear more of that today, on market trends, on economic intricacies. He's also been instrumental in aiding numerous businesses to succeed from an idea to an investment, and of course, help them grow into a sort of upward growth phase. His overarching goal, we are told, is to facilitate the journey of young individuals, many of whom we see in the audience, and families with limited financial means, helping them aspire to achieve sustainable employment prospects through effective higher education pathways. So welcome, Anand, and please put your hands together. Let it be interactive. So I'm going to ask a few questions, and then we'll probably take a couple of questions from the audience. The one request to the audience, to everyone, is ask a question. Please don't turn the question into a comment, because then we're just wasting everyone's time. So if you have a specific question, please tell us your name and ask a question, and also tell us which panelist the question is at. So can you tell us within like 1 or 2 minutes, what part of your professional journey is relevant to this audience? So if you want to tell us about your sort of professional journey in a couple of minutes, and tell us about what motivated you to get where you are, especially now in the context of where we are now. Anand, do you want to tell us a little bit about, I'm sure it's been a long professional journey.
Very long, I'm at the fag end of it.
But you're going to create a beginning for so many people.
Yes, so I'm 56, so I'm at the fag end of my career. In India, you retire at 60, so I'm almost there now. But I come from a generation, I don't see many people here. Yeah. There are two Indias. In India before 1991 and in India after 1991. So unfortunately for me, most of my education was in India before 1991. And I was 24 in 1991. It was done, dusted. And then Manmohan Singh happened, and then India changed. And at that time, I was programming computers for one of the large companies in India. When I listened to Dr. Singh, I found that subject more interesting than what computers I was doing, and decided to switch. But unfortunately, those days, if you had studied BA Economics in India, it was considered for somebody who had nothing else, no other course to study, had to study BA Economics. That was the level at when I went to college. That is, you didn't get any other course, you did BA Economics. And here was a man who studied economics, and who very famously he said that the time has come for India to take her rightful place in the committee of world nations. In fact, he said nobody can stop an idea whose time has come, quoting Victor Hugo, and said that India take her rightful place in the committee of world nations is one such idea. He did speak a lot. So if you go back and look at his 20-year career, you will find about 10,000 speeches he has made. And he was a kind of professorial person. So if you dig through those speeches, you'll really find that he was not a silent man as many people claim. Why I say that is, most of what I know in economics is learned from looking at his speech, finding a person's name, going and researching that, and then procuring the books to study that. So my economics was self-taught. And that is how I connected with Lord Keynes, Dennis Thompson, Joan Robinson, and a plethora of people from Cambridge, and Hayek from London School of Economics, and the great philosopher Karl Popper, who is again from the London School of Economics. He taught philosophy, and he was the person who taught me what is the difference between what I studied as a science student, what Jyoti is studying, and then what I did up as a social science. In science, you can falsify anything. If you say nitrite, since most of you will be engineering students, if you test for nitrite, it is a black ring test. If you test for copper sulfate, it is blue. So whereas in politics, economics, and other things, there is no falsification. You can never say that this theory does not work. I can turn around and show you that why it does not work. So I realized there are two things. Ones that can be falsified and what cannot be falsified. And she's a physics student. Heisenberg principle is the place where science ends and social science belongs. And that's how my journey started, and I abandoned science. because I found in my field there was lesser competition, and I realized whether you win in a social science or you whether in science, gold is gold. Unless he plays a very competitive sport, very fit sport, then I thought you can just roll the ball on the lawn and still get an Olympic gold. So this looked an easier one for me. Thank you.
Thanks, Anand. Thank
Who
you
you have?
very much. And just to sort of put a different spin to this, in terms of, I mean, regardless of what sector, because you told us about your own sort of, pursuing a particular field and then sort of, switching to a completely different field and then now, of course, doing multiple things. So no matter what sector somebody is in already, or no matter what subjects they study, or what do you think are the three top core skills that everybody should possess, no matter what?
I'll answer your question with this thing. There's a very famous poem by Robert Frost, The Road Less Taken.
Yes.
Okay, so there are two roads, and a point of time comes when you have to choose between the road that everybody takes, a standard career path, and a road like sorrow, which is a less traveled. And the same thing happened to me in 91 or 92. Had I not left software and stuck to it, I would have ended up at the very top of the software industry. And it was a booming industry. And for me to quit software and move to a subject, you don't know what, there is no career path. And to switch to that because I liked it was a big risk. And it looked like a big risk till the last 10 years. Imagine joining Infosys in 94 when just went public, finishing your career in Winfi. That is the kind of you would have had. And to leave that and to try economics and marketing and sales to go through your career, and then the entire world looking at you and saying that you have made a mistake. Okay? But now looking back over the last 10 years now, it doesn't look so bad. So one, you should have the courage of conviction to take the right decision, like he said he did. So you should be very clear that what you want to do, and it may not be the road traveled by everybody else. That is one. The core skills are you should know how to read. Very little people know how to read. You should master English, and that is one of the things why you should go to England. Because in my school, in my those days, I went to an elite school down the road, so where English speaking was taught very clearly. Today, I don't find that level of English skills because I interact with a lot of people. So English skills is something you have to think in English, and you should be able to read, and you should be able to think in English, and you should be able to write. So this reading skills, writing skills are very important. And today I would add the fourth skill, you should know how to code. Right? Coding is not like I am a software engineer and I will code. An economist needs to know Python. Without Python, you are not going to trawl through all the data. What does the economist do? He looks at the data, reads tea leaves, and makes a decision on money. Me as an investor, I take decisions on money. Somebody who is a developmental economist will make decisions on policy. So, to look at data, you need to code. Every time I need a small Python program, I can't look around my shoulder and ask somebody else to do. So, you need to read, you need to write, you need to speak. And public speaking came natural to me. Most people in front of a mic, they'll faint. So, reading, speaking, writing, the language skill, and of course, coding. Without that, you cannot make much progress in life today.
Thank you, Anand. Maybe you should learn how to use ChatGPT.
No, the problem with ChatGPT, I'll tell you what is the problem. Everybody thinks a lot of jobs are going to go because of chat. You should know what question to ask the ChatGPT. Only when you ask the question, ChatGPT will give the answer. So the entire, like Feynman said it very famously, you have to master a subject. Whenever you mastered a subject is when you can explain it to a 5-year-old child and she understands it. If a 5-year-old kid cannot understand what I'm talking in economics, then I have failed to convey my meaning. I am popular today because there were many more brilliant economists than me before, and there are going to be a lot more later. But you are able to relate and understand to what I say. So you should be able to do it in such a way that a 5-year-old kid can understand what you are talking about. Unless you have that kind of mastery, AI is not going to help you.
Thanks, Anand. That was provoke. that was a provocative question. But thank you so much. I mean, I agree with you totally. I mean, I think the art of simplicity is very underrated. So I think thank you so much. Shall we take a couple of questions from the audience? Because I think we've been just listening for too long. Yes, please.
Hi, my name is Kishore and I've just finished school. Now I'm interested in getting into research programs. So how should I get into research program? And I would like to become financially independent and do masters in my own. So what should I do to become financially independent? Become finishing college. So there are a lot of people do not tell how to get into research programs. They just tell get into college, get placed in campus interviews. I don't want to work in companies. I want to get into individual research programs and do research.
See, as far as research is concerned, let me answer your first question. Whether you want to do basic sciences, what you want to do in science, or you want to go to social sciences. Okay, engineering sadly is not the place to be when you want to do research. So in India, Manmohan Singh set up 5 institutes. I think there are more now that come up. It started with Chandigarh. There's an institution called ISER, which is basically reinvigorate India in its setups like the Indian Institute of Science, where you can do a 5-year program to do basic science in chemistry, biology, and physics and whatnot. I know a couple of kids who have passed. It's basically a 5-year program where you do your undergrad and grad. It's a competitive exam, not very difficult because not many people want to get into that. You do that, and then any top university in the world will accept you with scholarship. So that is the way to do research.
What's the name of
ISER.
it?
ISER.
IISER.
ISER. There are 5 such institutes. So that is, yeah. So Pune is there, Chandigarh is there. I can also, if you could contact my team, I can put you on to a guy who's passed it out, 2 people who have passed out and who are now in Switzerland and studying, one on genetics and the other on something in physics. So that is if you want to do basic research in science. Engineering is not the place to be. The other thing, if you want to do social sciences, is to study a 3-year program in BA Economics or B Commerce. If you want to go to UK, a 3-year course is enough. If you want to go to US, you have to have a 4-year degree. If you do a 3-year degree and go to one of these, like this lady has gone to King's, my friend Vignesh is not here today, but he did BCom in Loyola and then he did MA Political Science in King's, and the subject he chose was the defeat of the Congress party in Tamil Nadu in 1967, which is the year I was born. In an event not many of this generation will know is because it is very cataclysmic because it marked the end of Kamaraj. And Kamaraj himself lost his seat, whom today you call the paragon of honesty and virtue and a man who had absolutely sacrificed everything for public life, lost his own seat in his hometown, which he made into a municipality. So it was called Virdupatti. It became Virdunagar because of him. And today we sing paeans to his house. If you go to his house, there is nothing in his house. But he was very interested in finding out how could such a man lose an election. And that was his subject of PhD. You can also choose economics and pick up a subject on economics, on psychology, behavioral. And there is what is now a cutting an edge between where economics meets psychology called behavioral economics. 3 Nobels have been given in the last 20 years on that. So the choice is yours. So if you are a researcher, you should know whether I want to be in science or whether I want to be in social science. And if you really want to be researching, I'm telling you now, stop thinking of going to mechanical engineering. Mechanical engineering in India is question 1 time, answer 5 time. Because we don't do fundamental subjects. My uncle was a student from the Indian Institute of Science. So the first physics book, and since he gave it to me, was Feynman's lectures in physics. When I went to my college and asked my teacher about Feynman, she didn't know Feynman, but she was teaching me physics in the first year. So if you are really into science, then you should get out of this rat race. Engineering is for people like me who wanted to enter the rat race. If you don't want to be in the rat race and you want to be a science student, then you just switch and move to either ISER or to social science, whatever you want to do. Now, on your second question, start small. Whatever is your pocket money your parents are giving you, at least 40% of that, just keep saving away. That is savings. That is putting it in a piggy bank or putting it in a bank. Putting into a bank is actually losing money. Money keeps eroding every year. Right now, it's eroding at 7.5%. No bank gives you 7.5%. So then you figure out where you want to invest the money. and do it in small periods of time, then absolutely nothing. There's a no-brainer. The money takes care of itself. There's a video called One Idiot done by IDFC. It's about investing. If you see that video, you'll get an understanding. Thank you.
Thank you, Anand, for that. Thank you. Let's remember to go watch Big Idiot. Okay, I watched it. Yeah, perhaps too late to watch it.
I think I'll figure it out. Just check what is that IDFC video and say.
We'll take one more question, and I'm requesting panelists to keep their responses very brief as well. So, okay, we've got two there.
What is the perspective of mental health for future?
If you can study psychology, basically we are looking at mental health in psychology. Vienna is the place where psychology started. So you should be looking at psychology. I do not know. She'll guide you better which university you should look at. You should definitely look at a post-graduation and a doctorate in psychology. And you can be, India does not have enough psychologists. We have psychiatrists. We don't have psychologists. So that is one thing. And he will tell you the importance of psychology. I'll tell you why. Because in Latin we say carpe diem. That is, you seize the moment importantly. There's a match point. The gold medal is there. And there's a, if you see in tennis, there was Jana Novotná. And she's fluffed it to Steffi Graf. And so it's an important thing that Dhoni had that skill, that the last ball to hit for 6, when the entire country is watching you and you have to close the match.
Right. Thanks, Anand. Which brings me to, I wanted to ask a question to, you're all, you're, although you said you're at the end of your career, but I think you've had a great journey, and sort of, whether it's sport or a sort of regular career or whether it's research, there's this whole sort of, culture, especially in the, I think, for the last 20 or 25 years especially, there's this whole hustle culture, and it's all about, so success is made equivalent to working long hours, putting in a lot of hard work. We've heard it from our parents as well. There's no substitute for hard work, working, staying late at the office and stuff like that. And then you've smashed one glass ceiling, but then you want to smash another one. So there's a lot written about the hustle culture, and especially in 2023, post-pandemic, there's a lot written about it. And in terms of, we spoke about psychology as well, but I think in terms of mental health. So what do you think is the sweet spot? What do you think is the sort of easy balance? And what is your view on young people who are either stepping into the workforce, or young people who are already in the workforce, or mid-career professionals? What do you think? What is your view on this whole hustle culture?
See, my answer to your question is this. This is very simple. You form habits. Habits become routines. Routines becomes discipline. So if you have habits, routines, and discipline, you get freedom. So habits, routines, and if you pick good habits, and habits are good and bad. In school, you can learn to smoke. You can also learn to play to sport. Learning to smoke is very easy. Playing sport is very difficult. Right? And so you don't have to play it at Saurav's level. Even if you play it at a level of your school, team building is a very important. Team building is a big impact. You learn from sports. So around you in school, you pick good habits or you pick bad habits. Bad habits are very easy to pick. Good habits are very difficult to latch on to. But whatever habits you latch on to will come with you for life. It gives you a routine. And then the rest becomes very easy. I remember one Jewish survivor from the Holocaust said this: I survived, the rest was easy. So if you survive, the rest is easy. And for surviving, you need to put yourselves in through routines.
That was very insightful, and also I think the examples say it also. Thank you so much for sharing that. Anand, I know when we spoke down, you said that I haven't studied in the UK, but in terms of your own experience, your huge your long professional journey, hugely successful in whatever you do. What is your view on studying abroad? What is your advice for students?
You must study abroad. In my times, it was very difficult because getting a visa out of India was very difficult those days. And the line outside the US embassy was twice the size. And you had to reserve overnight. But now it's much more easier. Indians are welcome abroad. Getting a visa is easier.
Not sure about the US visa right now, though.
Yeah, but that's because of the pandemic. But what I'm saying is, India is a very protective place. You're like he said, his grandmother never allowed him into the kitchen, and I grew up in a very protected environment. So you always grow up in a protected environment, and you just put out there to survive again. So it's not only cooking. You have a limited budget, and you will know that how much you can stretch that budget, and it's you learn how to survive, and we don't think in English in India, so you go learn to think in English, and the accent in which we speak and the accent at which they speak, it's relatively easier in UK, much more difficult in US, but your level of communication, how to handle money, how do you live with strange people, all that will make you, like he says, you can drop you on the moon and you will survive. So whether what you study is not important, basically time away from parents and uncles and aunts who mollycoddle you, and you have to earn your money. Some of you will not be privileged to your parents to send you money every month, and so you'll have to work. So we would have never worked as a waiter. We look down as working as a waiter here, but in US and UK you do work at the fast food stall, you work at the grocery shop, so you know the less privileged, but most of you here are privileged, so most of you will not, you will know what it feels to be a supermarket supervisor or a waiter or your service provider. And you are forced to do all the things that your family will never allow you to do here. $8 an hour or £8 an hour, I don't know what is the rate now, but £8 a rate, £8. 10 pounds, okay. It's now 10 pounds an hour, and you will really, for 20 hours, and you tend to work. You tend to work. I know of a guy who wrote thesis for others and who made money. And so you do all sorts of jugards. You can do typing work, you do photocopying, you do everything to survive. So it teaches you how to survive. The sad thing is, most of people who go abroad from India somehow think it's a ticket to migrate. It is not. And when you try to overstay, is when India gets a bad name. So if it so happens you get a career, great, you stay there. But I can assure you, you are living a middle class life there as much as you live like a middle class life here. So there is nothing great there, you know. All of us have great imaginations that UK is a great place to stay. But whatever you can do here as a middle class, upper middle class Indian is the same kind of lifestyle you will have. Slightly more difficult because you will not have people to work for you. Like I'm sure in UK you can't afford a driver or a maid servant and those kind of things which we take for granted in India, you will not. So you cannot go to your neighborhood doctor and ask for a treatment. So there are a lot of adjustments you will make. It's not paradise on earth where somehow you want to go through some route and hang around even when you're not welcome. It's when you try to hang around when you're not welcome is that the country as a whole gets a bad name. But otherwise, it's very clear. There's a Cheving scholarship which I saw here, which says that you have to come back in 3 years. They give you the scholarship which says that you don't apply for a permanent residency. You work for 3 years and you come back. I think the UK has a generous policy that you study 2 years, you work for 2 or 3 years, pay off your loans, and you come back. Unless you get a career of your choice, and then which you can legally get a high skill, they call it the high skill visas. If you get that, that's great. But you go with an object to get an experience, not to make it a place to stay.
2 last questions, and if they can be brief questions, that would be great. Okay, one, two.
I will go first. So I am Vignesh. So I am having 2 kids. So I like to understand. So what is the cost of study abroad now, and what will be the cost of study after 20 years? So I want to plan my kids' career.
I don't know. Okay. I think a postgraduate degree in UK costs about a good university. I don't know about the rest, but a very good university. The Oxbridge or the London School will cost you about 30 lakhs a year today. Fees plus staying plus, basically fees plus staying will cost you about 25 to 30 lakhs a year. So that's about 60 lakhs. You add every year 8%. Why? That is plus the fact that the rupee will depreciate by 3% every year over the next 10 years. That would be your cost.
One last question from the young gentleman.
I completed my BTech degree in genetic engineering at Star University. So currently I'm pursuing my master's UK University of Bath or an offer letter in the field of microbiology, molecular bioscience. It's an integrated course. So following that, and I've been following the videos since for 1 year. It really changed my mind about how to
Thank you.
invest in the stocks.
Thank you, sir.
Do really love to invest in stocks.
Thank you, sir.
So,
Thank you.
what does a student, I do have a question for you. What's the survival rate of a student?
What is the?
Survival rate.
In terms of economy, as a student, I'm pursuing a research student.
See, at the end of the day, everybody does survive. So you don't have to worry. So the problem with most Indian families I see, which luckily I didn't go through, was most of the parents push through thinking that you have to study, you have to get a job, you get into IIT. If you don't get IIT, you get into one of the top colleges. You somehow manage to get a job, you get married, have children, and then continue. The cycle continues. But that's what you should not be doing. Life is not like 1 plus 1 is 2. Life is non-linear. It will take you through various courses, right? And there are many ups and downs. So you should be able to handle ups and downs and not worry too much about failing. And in fact, you should be celebrating failure. India does not have a culture of celebrating failure. America is very successful because it celebrates failure. So if you don't, and as parents, we don't accept failure. So we should accept that if one guy wins, 9 guys have lost. I'm sure he will tell you how many people enter squash, and only one guy gets to win the gold medal. So we don't accept failure. So if you want to survive, you should be willing to accept failure and learn from it and move on. If you don't accept failure and move on in life, you will definitely succeed.